Hi guys and welcome. Today I'll do another video comparing the Devialet Phantom Reactor 900 against another speaker. In this case it'll be the Devialet Gold Phantom. Many people have requested this comparison and I think it's also quite interesting. The Gold Phantom already is a few years old, or the big Phantom generally is I think 4 or 3 years old already, while the small Phantom is just a few months old, and I also just got it like 2 or 3 months ago. So it's interesting to see what they have improved, or if it can even keep up with the bigger one. So the Gold Phantom is 2,600 euros and the small one is just, in air quotes, 1,300 euros, and it's around 3 or 4 times smaller than the Phantom, the big one. As you can see right here, it's quite a difference. To already take away something, I think the small Phantom definitely is an improved version when it comes to the user experience, not talking about sound yet. I think it looks a bit nicer, kind of doesn't look as, I don't know, fat as the other one. Maybe that's a bit too much, but it's not as bulky as the big Phantom. It looks a bit more elegant. I also like the size more, and it also just has a better user experience. So it finally has an on and off button, which the old one didn't have. So it has one theoretically, but it doesn't really work. So it doesn't actually turn off the speaker. You can only use it for reset, while with the new smaller one they fixed it. Also the app works nicer, connects more easily, Bluetooth works better. Finally also have a status LED as well as touch controls on the top, to kind of interact with the speaker more, instead of just having a big speaker which you cannot really see if it's on or off, or if you are connected or not. Also the volume steps are way more refined than with the old one. So with the old one, if you just pressed one volume stop, or if you pressed your volume button once, it'll jump in volume rapidly, while the smaller one is way nicer and way smoother than the old one. And again, it's just these kind of small things which they improved on the new version, which is very nice. It's a just overall nicer user experience. Now let's talk about the actual speaker part. So the small Phantom, the Phantom Reactor, has 900 watts of peak power, by the way. So it's not RMS, it's just peak power. It has 3 drivers, 2, I would say 4 or 5 inch woofers on the side, and one 1 inch full range driver on the front. The bigger Phantom has 4,500 watts of peak power. It has 2 6 or 7 inch woofers on the side, 1 mid-range driver around the tweeter, and then the titanium dome tweeter itself, which is not some kind of full-range driver, it's an actual tweeter. And again, although it's a subjective thing, I think that the smaller one, I don't know, looks a bit nicer. It doesn't have all of these lines, which the bigger one has. It looks a bit cleaner. I also prefer its size, and when it comes to the user experience, there's no question. The smaller one is just nicer when it comes to working with the speaker, thanks to the touch controls on the top, seeing in what mode it is, thanks to the status LED, and just connecting to it, turning it on, turning it off. That's definitely improved over the older and bigger generation. But now let's get into the sound check itself. As always, I'm wearing high quality binaural microphones to give you the most realistic sound impression possible. The only thing you have to do for this is wear headphones, otherwise these recordings won't work and you will not get the right impression of both speakers. So yeah, just put up your headphones and enjoy the sound check.
Together like Egyptian gold, we love us. lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? Father Mackenzie, writing the words of a sermon that no one will hear. No one comes near. Look at him working, darning the socks in the night when there's nobody there. What does he care? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? It's 5:45 in the morning and I can't get no sleep. Tossing and turning my head underneath the sheets. Feel like I'm gonna go crazy. Watching minutes falling out of the clock. Well, my vision is hazy. Somebody help me, I wanted to stop. Well, I did what the doctor told me. I still can't get no relief, no. 'Cause I'm thinking of you, babe, and it's playing on repeat. Well, I close my eyes a bit tighter. I'm gonna block the memories out. Oh, the night's getting lighter and I'm feeling so worn out. I'm burning up with a fever. It's just too strong to fight. Well, there's nothing left I can do now. Help me make it through the night. Well, I've done everything I'm supposed to. I still can't get no relief, no. 'Cause I'm thinking of you, babe, and it's playing on repeat. Oh.
So now wrapping up this comparison, it's been quite interesting. So I've been playing the speakers at around 50% volume. What I didn't demonstrate are higher volumes, and in that case, also on max volume, the bigger Phantom definitely wins. It stays clean for way longer than the smaller one. Also on max volume, it's around 2.5 or even 3 times louder than the smaller one, which is obvious. It has a way bigger woofer, it's a bigger speaker, it's more expensive. So if you're looking for a party speaker that keeps really good amounts of bass, even on high or max volume, and that can play really loud, go for the Gold Phantom instead of the smaller one. But when it comes to pure sound quality, I'm actually quite impressed by how close these two are. Yeah, I'd say the bigger Phantom still delivers more clarity or more resolution thanks to the tweeter. The smaller one sometimes sounds a bit, how say this, crunchy, that's a weird word, but that's quite matching. In the upper treble, it kind of doesn't sound as clean as the smaller one, which I think is because the small full range driver has to handle all frequencies from 350 to 20,000 Hertz, while the tweeter and the bigger Phantom just has to work from, I think, 2500 Hertz and up. But apart from these small kind of things, I think that they sound quite similar. Also, the bass impact is pretty close. According to Devialet, the big Phantom will do 14 Hertz and the smaller one will do 18 Hertz. That's not really how it is. I think it's at -6 dB, so both will do around 30 or 35 Hertz. The bigger Phantom still reaches a bit lower and of course also has a bit more impact when it comes to the deep bass kicks because of more power and just bigger subwoofers on the side. But what I noticed is that you have to crank up the bigger Phantom much higher in order to get good and full sound, because it's not really in its sweet spot on normal volumes. You have to crank it up higher, maybe in a bigger room, to get the full, power unleashed, while with a small Phantom it reaches its sweet spot much earlier already, and thanks to the loudness compensation, which the bigger one also doesn't have, you can also listen on low volumes and really enjoy a nice and full-bodied sound. And this is also why I personally maybe even prefer the smaller one. It's less expensive, it's smaller, it's easier to use, and sometimes it even sounds nicer, and overall it's just more practical. Still, to conclude this, I'd say it's a subjective choice. The smaller one, just like I already said, has its advantages, but the bigger one of course as well. It's much louder, keeps nicer bass for high volume, so if you are living in a big apartment and you have big rooms, maybe the bigger one is the way to go, because you will crank it up higher anyways, and this is where the bigger one shines compared to the smaller one, which starts losing bass earlier already. Again, the definition in the mid-range and the upper treble is slightly superior with the bigger Phantom, just sounds cleaner sometimes. Also less distortion, of course, bigger drivers, separated mid-range and high frequency driver in the big Phantom, just allowed to play a bit cleaner than the smaller one, and you can sometimes hear this, but the differences aren't that huge, so you really have to decide for yourself if the difference is worth another $1,300 or euros in this case, or not. So you might be better off with buying the smaller one, or if it fits your needs, you are maybe also better off with the bigger one, as again both have advantages and disadvantages when you compare both of them to each other. But now I don't want to make this too long. I hope the comparison was helpful and you could make your own decision. Of course, let me know in the comments which one you preferred, because I still think it's quite interesting how good the smaller one keeps up. It's rather a matter of taste and not which one actually is better, because both of them have their advantages and disadvantages, which is interesting because the smaller one is 4 times smaller and half the price of the Gold Phantom. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like or subscribe to the channel to don't miss out on any future uploads coming soon. Until then, have a great time and see you in the next one.